Welcome everyone to this alumni service. Before we begin, I have a few announcements for you. The first is, although I'll say go in peace at the end of this gathering, I'm actually asking all of you grads to go directly to the Crossville Quad. That's where the alumni bears are going to be distributed. So please go there right after. Second, a word of thanks to everyone who was involved in preparing this service. To Peter and his cast of thousands, and to our speakers, Mark and Ann, to Devin and John, and for the work behind the scenes, our marketing and communications group, especially Denise. She helped figure out who would speak today, so glad that she brought Ann to us. And third, a word of appreciation to all of you for adding your spirits and your voice to this gathering. Grads, you're going to find this both familiar and a bit different. You'll notice some additions taken from our older traditions. Equally, you might notice a few missing pieces from our usual practice. With that being said, it's time to begin, and let's settle in together and enjoy Mr. Butterfield's prelude. Peace be with you.
Also with you.
This building holds a lot of memories. Consider simply the idea that care was taken to note the name of every graduate. My daughter's is up there. Soon you'll find yours right over there. Beyond those names, when we scan the room, we find plaques naming our founders, our heads of school, the chaplains, a motley crew, you should check them out. And then there's that massive plaque at the back that lists the names of former students who fought in World War I, along with those who died. We also have memorial plaques that name individuals who in some way have touched this community deeply. At chapel this week, we talked about one of them, John Nation. Today, I'll make note of two others added this year. The first, some of our older alumni will recognize. The second was a friend to many of you grads. I'll speak briefly about both. Nicholas Proust only taught at this school from 1960 to 1964, which might cause you to wonder why he would have a plaque. The truth is that he so impacted his students that when he died in 2019, they asked for his name to find a place on these walls. In life, his approach was wholehearted and passionate. As a history teacher, rugby, track and field coach, house tutor, and mentor. He was a key supporter of the students who actually built this chapel. But perhaps more than anything, he had the kinds of conversations with students that impacted the course of their lives. His belief in them helped them to see what was possible for themselves. Emily Selwood was dear to many here, and it's in this room that we gathered to mourn her loss in October. If life is about connecting with those around us, Emily certainly made the most of those connections to her classmates, her teammates, her clubmates, her friends and family, and to Ollie, her little dog, whom her family still suspects she loved most of all. She was also connected to a sense of purpose, a desire to make this world a better place for others. And she did make it better, not simply by co-chairing our service council, but in the way she simply was. With Nick and Emily in mind, let's pause for a moment of silence. Let us borrow from Nick and Emily what it means to be wholehearted, passionate, and connected as we continue with the service and share an ancient piece of wisdom.
We're all familiar with our school's mission statement and its call for us to pursue goodness and truth. Those thoughts are reflected in these ancient words of Scripture from the 2nd chapter of the book of Proverbs. My child, if you accept my words and treasure up my commandments within you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, if you indeed cry out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart and knowledge will be pleasant in your soul. Here ends the reading. Amen.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to be able to add my words of welcome to those already offered. but I'm particularly pleased to have this opportunity to welcome back members of our alumni community. Many of you have traveled significant distances. We know we have representatives from Peru and from South Africa and several from Europe. Some of you have traveled over multiple time spans as well. We have visitors here today who graduated in the 1950s, so we have representatives of every decade of the 50 years that we're celebrating with our Jubilee. A particularly warm welcome to our grade 12 graduating class of 2022. This for you is a time of change and transition. And I know that chatting to some of you over the course of the last few days, it's a time of great excitement as you look to broader horizons and the challenges that are going to come over the next few years. To some of you, it will be a relief. You're shaking off the shackles of childhood. Some of you have journeyed with us as lifers over 12 years. You started your time here as nothing much more than babies in kindergarten, and now you're leaving on the threshold of adulthood. Some of you will leave with a feeling of joy, able to celebrate innumerable shared achievements. You've been a pretty successful class of 22. And I suspect many of you also will have a tinge of sadness, possibly even anxiety, as you look to those challenges and look to move on from a school that's provided comfort and routine and friendship. So what message can I give to connect to totally different audiences? One gathered here, looking back, reliving vivid memories, telling stories. Another audience looking forward, looking to escape, looking for more freedom and more challenge. I thought I'd use one parable from the New Testament. We've just had a reading from the Old Testament, but a parable from the New Testament, which I think nicely ties together these two different audiences. It's the parable of the house upon the rock. And St. Matthew says there, "Be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And when the rain falls and the floods come and the winds blow and they beat on that house, it will not fall because it has been founded on the rock." So that's my message to you today, that quite literally our school is built on rock. We're here on a site where fortunately we have strong granite foundations on the foothills of Mount Tolmie. This chapel is built of stone on rock, and we have many of the architects and the builders of this place here with us this morning. And almost every day we give thanks for that contribution that you made all those years ago to convert a vision into reality that has been passed down the generations. So we have a school and we have a chapel, but of course those words are a parable, they're an allegory. The real rock that St. Matthew is referring to is our values. Over the course of up to 12 years, you've sat here, you've shared many experiences. We've discussed some of the bigger questions that face us as humans on our life journey. And behind us all the time have been our values: respect, honesty, service, and courage. And it's a particular joy that this year, for the first time, those values have been converted into the beautiful artistry developed by Dylan Thomas, our Indigenous artist. So we have experienced change together, but I hope as you move on, you will be prepared to take on the challenges of the future. And let's face it, this generation and my generation are handing on really significant challenges to you. But what we do know, as you take your own values from the ones that we've shared together, is if you build your houses and your lives on the rock, they will not only stand, but they will flourish.
is my honor to be here today to represent the graduating class of 2022 and introduce our keynote speaker of today, who is an alumna from the class of 2015. Ann Makosinski is a Filipino-Polish-Canadian inventor, a global keynote speaker, and an aspiring writer. She is best known for her invention of the hollow flashlight, a device that runs off the heat of the human hand, and the e-drink, a coffee mug that harvests the excess heat of your hot drink and converts it into electricity to charge your phone. Besides being an inventor, Ann has frequently traveled the world to deliver keynote talks. She has given 5 TED Talks, is featured on Jimmy Fallon shows, is one of Forbes Magazine 30 Under 30, Times Magazine 30 Under 30 World Changers, Entrepreneur Magazine's Young Millionaires, and Glamorous Magazine's College Woman of the Year. She recently completed her work on the line of children's toys that run off of green energy that was featured on CNN. Ann's impressive list of accomplishments cannot fully capture the significant impact she has created in this world, as she has inspired others around her with her empathy, creativity, and resilience in the toughest times. And without further ado, let's give a round of applause for Ann.
Hi everyone. That is a photo of me, I think when I was in grade 5 or grade 6. I was very excited about my class photo, as you can tell. And that is a very jet-lagged photo of me in Argentina that I apologize is on the screen. So hi everyone. I am so excited to be speaking here today. I honestly actually never spoke that I can remember in chapel as a student, so this is my first time. And yeah, I'm super excited. And grade 12s, congratulations for getting this far in your journey. You guys did it. You got a couple months to go, and I really hope you enjoy the last few months you have together, because it is a very special experience that you will truly not have in the same way again in your life. It is a very special moment to come of age with a group of people, whether you get along or not, and it's something that you need to write down and record. Something that I did that has allowed me to speak a little bit today on my experience at SMU is that I kept a very detailed diary throughout my junior middle school. Was like more on and off, but in grade 11 and half of grade 12, I wrote every single day a few sentences of what had occurred, and it gives my friends, my close friends, no greater pleasure than me reading out the things that I was writing about them 5 years later. So write down what you're experiencing. I know it's easy to take photos and videos. I actually had taken a lot of photos and videos, and I lost my entire hard drive and don't have any photos from high school. So write it down on a notebook. So hi, my name is Ann. I am 24 years old. It's my 7th year out of SMU this year, which is very bizarre. I was looking forward to coming back for 5-year anniversary, but obviously COVID happened, so I'm so excited to be here today. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my growing up experience when I moved to SMU, going through SMU, and what I'm up to now. So my first toy was a box of transistors and other electronic parts. My parents didn't want to give me a lot of conventional toys, and they just thought I would be forced to be more creative with whatever I did have. So instead, I would take my hot glue gun and garbage from around the house and piece together my very first inventions, which of course never worked, but the idea of taking the resources around me and piecing them together to make something better just kind of came naturally out of necessity. From there, I was just taking apart old electronics. UVic used to have this awesome spot near the field hockey fields where they would just dump all their old electronics they were throwing out. I don't know what happened to it, but I used to go there after field hockey practice and take home old printers and things to rip apart. I also was obsessed with insects, which were like free alive toys in the backyard as far as I was concerned. So I would collect them. If my dad was like trying to kill the caterpillars because they were eating all our fruit trees, I would be like, no, let me keep them in a box so they die slowly. But I would be enjoying it. So I would always water and spray all my bugs before I caught the school bus. I actually went to St. Margaret's before I moved to SMU. And I was also obsessed with opera. I was watching very dramatic operas all the time growing up. And I was raised on silent films from the 1920s. So I was just not up to the times.
I did not know who SpongeBob SquarePants was or any of that. And I say sponge instead of sponge. I know that's weird. So my parents became a little concerned that I wouldn't know how to talk to boys, which is a very important life skill. And this was exemplified when I did a piano summer camp in the summer of my grade 2 year, and I had done a duet with a boy who ended up also moving to SMU. I feel like I started a trend, but who knows. And we had done a duet together, and I was so excited because we had done a great job, and afterwards I went up to him and I was like, this was so great, Ryan. Like, you know, I go to all-girls school, so you're actually like my first boy friend, like my first boy that's a friend. And he went, ew, and literally ran away from me. And then my parents were like, okay, we need to like move her to, you know, co-ed school. So I was really lucky in grade 4 to get into SMU. I don't know if these teachers were still around when you guys were there, but I had Mrs. Reese for grade 4, and then, yes, I see some nods, and then I had Mrs. Yorth, who's also amazing, for grade 5. And it was such a fun experience. It was slightly terrifying, of course, because I just didn't know how to talk to people. I don't think until middle school, I would just think boys wouldn't hear me if I talked out loud. Like, I just thought they chose not to hear me. So I just wouldn't talk to them for a while. So it took a little bit of adaptation. But it was fun getting to know people. The school immediately felt so welcoming. And actually, other than the boy fiasco, what really prompted me to want to move to St. Michael's was because in the 3rd grade, my parents had brought me to the McPherson Theater, and Mr. Frater had put on an opera of Die Fledermaus, but it was with 10-year-olds singing it. I don't know if any of you guys were in the operas in junior school or not. Yes, no? Yes, some nods, because it happened every other year, so I'm not sure which year. But I, as a fellow opera lover, when I saw a bunch of 10-year-olds singing opera, I was like, I want to do that. So I moved to SMU, and I was really lucky in the 5th grade. It was the second time Mr. Fader had put on an opera, and it was The Magic Flute, which I already knew quite well. And then I had to face my fear of actually singing in front of anybody that knew me and was my friend, which I'm sure lots of you have had to conquer through choir class. So it was a magical experience, and I think one of my favorite memories of junior school is when there was the field, before it's being converted. There was this side full of bushes on the right side of the playground, and there was this boy that liked me, and during recess, we would go, and he would give me his Ziploc from his lunch bag, and I would collect aphids and put them in the Ziploc to bring home with me. And after a while, I started realizing that the aphids were either like roasting or dying a squishy, pulpy, messy death before I got home every day. But I didn't have the heart to tell him, so we just kept doing it every lunch, massacring aphids. The gardener should have thanked us, honestly. And so that was junior school, and the opera and everything was just such a lovely experience. And also what I really appreciated about our choir teacher, Mr. Frater, was that he came with us from junior school to middle school. And that kind of eased that transition of feeling so terrified to be in a completely different campus with all these new teachers and people we didn't know. And also, when you get to grade 5, I mean, I had only entered grade 4, but I imagine for lifers it's different. You feel like you're at the top of the pecking order, like I'm the coolest person here, because I'm the oldest. The kindergartners are lame. But then when you get to grade 6, you're at the bottom of the pecking order again, and you're like, oh my god, I'm the youngest. I'm like a fetus child wandering around. Who are these mysterious grade 8ers who slam their lockers? Like, there's all just a lot to take in. So grade 6 to grade 8, for me, I'm sure some of you guys could relate, it's probably one of the most awkward years of my life, and I'm sure yours too. I wish we had slightly older middle school photos, but I had a bowl cut, which just began in grade 4. If you're half Asian like me, or maybe have Asian parents, you know the parents will put the bowl around your head, they'll cut it, it's just part of growing up experience. And I had glasses. Once I had bendable glasses, and during a field trip, not for SMU, it was for this thing my dad was filming, but I was bending them because I was bored on the bus, and they snapped in half. And I was like, I can fix this, because I had the inventing mindset. So I took a bandage, and I bandaged my glasses together. And that was probably, now that I look back, I'm like, that was not a look. I mean, it happened, but at least I was, fixing my problems in that sense. So yeah, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. Another teacher that was so wonderful, and I think you guys probably missed him, his name was Mr. Manson Blair, and he was my tag homeroom teacher, and he also taught socials. And he was just so kind with me. I'm sure you guys can all think of a teacher that you may have had in middle school who kind of took you in and knew what you were going through and was like, I am here for you. It's okay, what you're going through is normal. And I loved Mr. Manson Blair because he was teaching us about Greek history at one point, and in class he was just like, you know what? We're going to make a traditional Greek salad in class, and you're all going to help me. And I loved unconventional teachers like that, that were just a little more hands-on, a little more like, let's really dive in. And yeah, and it was a great time. Did you guys do musicals in middle school as well? Amazing. Which ones did you do? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Amazing. Okay, so for me, it was every other year, and they caught us on grade 6 and grade 8. So grade 6, we did King of Elfland's Daughter, which was this amazing musical that Mr. Manson Blair and Mr. Ferris had put together. And then in grade 8, we did Oliver, or Oliver Twist. And I was so excited to be an assistant director on Oliver Twist, which just basically entailed me following Mr. Manson Blair around and like pointing at things. But it was so fun, and yeah, middle school was a great time of kind of figuring out and seeing that the friends that felt maybe slightly more open group with more open friend group in grade 5 were suddenly transitioning into slightly more segregated groups of different kinds of people because people were finding their interests a little more in grade 7 and 8 of like, this person likes sports more, this person is not good at sports, or this person likes science fair, and that was only me because in middle school when I started doing science fair, the Vancouver one locally at UVic, I was the only person like in the school basically doing science fair projects. And as a very self-conscious teenager, I didn't tell most of my friends that I was even doing a project. I was too shy and I didn't want to be considered, you know, nerdy, which now is very cool. So now I tell everyone about it. So I actually hid that I was doing science fair quite a lot, but I caught the science fair bug where every year I wanted to build something and then research it, present it, make a poster, and then get to perform it. And it's really funny that it's called science fair because I actually believe it's a big combination of skills that you need to have in both the sciences and the arts. It's the science part because you're coming up with an idea, researching it, prototyping it, making it. And then the art part comes when you have to write a whole written report, you have to make a poster board that everybody can understand and isn't overwhelmed by, and you have to be able to present your project to a 5-year-old who's wandering around and being dragged by their parents, or a professor of that field that you studied. So I started learning all these amazing skills in science fair, as well as like, I did a lot of concours d'oratoire. Willingly, I signed up, like when you didn't have to, I wanted to present. And it was just a really great time. My sports experience in middle school was kind of my parents making me do every single sport, and I was going, I'm not good at most of these. Nobody's passing to me. Or it was like a pity pass, and I was like, parents, like, do you not see? I'm not happy. But I'm actually really glad that my parents pushed me to do all these sports, even if I didn't want to, because it made me comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's such a valuable skill that all of you guys have probably learned sometime while in high school. And as an adult, you just need to also have that skill and really just be yourself no matter what situation you're in. So one thing, I don't know if you guys played this, but in middle school during lunchtimes, we would play Manhunt. Yes, okay, see lots of nods, good. So we were playing Manhunt, which is basically one person's it, and then everyone hides around the campus, and you have to tag them. And one time I was it, which just sucked. I hate being it. I only wanted to hide. And the boy I was chasing, sorry, I'm talking about boys a lot, but that was a big part of my senior school experience. He ran from the middle school, and he ran past the chapel and into the senior school. And that was my first time ever going in the senior school, was this racing tour throughout the 2nd and 3rd floors, like, and all the way past like the music buildings. And I was running through these corridors and I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this part of the school? I'm excited to go here. And that was what kind of welcomed me unofficially to the senior school before I moved on in grade 9. And in senior school, that's when I noticed, the kilts were getting rolled up and the socks were getting pushed down. So I was trying to follow that trend. It was definitely not cool, let me just clarify that. Grade 9, also very awkward year of my life. I just also, as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl, you can feel very self-conscious about everything and how you look and how you're coming across to people, and I definitely was that, and I was, so just peak awkward. I'm just moving on. But there were just so many great teachers also, again, in senior school. I'm sure you guys found this, but this is something that's very hard to find after you leave, especially just after you leave SMU, is just teachers that are so willing to help you outside of school as well, or like after school hours or during lunch and recess. It is very difficult to find it. I have not been able to find it in the same way as I did at SMU. I was horrific at chemistry, and I was still determined to try and pass in grade 11. So I would go to all these extra help sessions after school that Mrs. Johnson held, and then I was going at recess and lunch to get extra help as well. And after a certain point, my teachers were like, "You are not enjoying this. We think you should not do this." Because I think internally something I learned is when I really don't like something, I just am resistant to learning it or doing it. Even if I really need to or want to, it just won't happen. So that was something that I learned early on in high school that I'm glad I did. But there were just so many great teachers. I don't know if you guys had Mr. Young at all, maybe, yes, but he was my English teacher for grade 10, 11, 12. And, oh, sorry, not Mr. Young, chemistry teacher, Mr. Young, English literature teacher. He might have just retired. He was my favorite teacher because he also just talked to us on the same level. Like, we were not students, but just his friends. And I'm sure you guys can think of teachers that you've had like that, that made you feel cool, like you were grown up, which you guys are. And then there was Mr. Edgington, who taught me AP Seminar. So when I was in grade 12, AP Seminar was we were the guinea pigs. It was the first time it was being taught. And it was a very, very fun class. It was more fun for me because I was just trying to maintain the 3 boys that liked me all at the same time in the class. So I was trying to equally dole out affection to all of them. And I think one of the times that Mr. Edgington really could have gotten angry at me was at one time, one of these people smashed a banana peel on my leg while Mr. Edgington was talking, and I screamed in the middle of the library. And Mr. Edgington was like, "And if Anne can ever shut up, we will be able to get on with our class." And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And at the same time, every year I was doing science fair projects, and I was going to the Canada-wide science fair as well. And the Canada-wide science fair was conveniently at the same time as the out trips. So as someone who detested the outdoors, this was a great way to get out of that. And the one time I did an out trip, well, I did it a few times in middle school. In grade 8, I did one where you could try a bunch of different sports. I forget what the experience, I don't know what it was called. And one of them was surfing. We did for a day. I don't know if you guys did that at all. But I had glasses and I didn't have contact lenses, so I had to take the glasses off, and I was very blind. I can't see past this. And to go surfing in the middle of the ocean, not seeing anything, and already never having surfed before, was just traumatic. But I'm still glad we went on the camping trip. So after that, I was like, okay, science fair is happening same time as outdoor trip. I can get out of it this way. This is great. And then I was doing all these projects in alternative energy harvesting and making just like what I thought were just our simple inventions. And then in the start of my grade 11 year, this invention I had made of a flashlight that runs off the heat of your hand won at the Google Science Fair, which I had gone to in the start of in September of grade 11, and that was just so surprised. I just truly was not expecting it at all. And that's when everything kind of flipped for me, because I had tried hiding. I'd done science fair for so long because I was afraid people would judge me, and then all of a sudden the school assembly was like, "Anne, come to the front." And I was like, oh God. But it was a beautiful growing experience and really helped me discover who were my real friends versus not. And I started being gone a lot from school because I was traveling so much to speak suddenly at conferences and things that I felt completely unqualified to be speaking at. And it was just, I so appreciated how all the teachers here had been so patient with me and trying to understand my very confusing situation. And I also really appreciated Mr. Rodford, who was head of school at that time. He would catch up with me every other week and having lunch meetings and being like, how are you? How are you doing? And I just so appreciated again how much all the teachers really cared. What else can I say about high school? Grade 12 specifically was just really fun for me because it was the first time over that summer before grade 12 I got contact lenses for the first time, and I was like, I can see around school, because literally people would say hi to me and I wouldn't wear my glasses during school, so I would literally just not think they were there, and I would walk right past them. And my friend was like, you didn't say hi to me like in between these periods, and I was like, I didn't see you. So I was glad to be able to see. And I used to do things, I don't know if you, okay, someone here has done this, they're just not admitting it, I hope, where I would see where my crush was walking by, like past these garbage cans in the quad or like whatever, and I would write down, okay, in between third and fourth period, this is where they will be. So I would try and like walk the same way as them. There's many ways to, you know, follow where they would have been. I'm sure you guys have done something like this. And I also remember in grade 12, that was the first time I got asked out for a Valentine's Day, and I was asked out in a series of Snapchat photos of saying, hi, and then it was like further down the hallway, it was like photo of random hallway, like, would you like to go with me further down the hallway on a date on February 14th? Do you guys still use Snapchat? Yes? Okay. Because like I feel like it became uncool a few years ago, and now everybody's using it again, so it's a very interesting process. A couple other memories I relish of grade 12 is one time my friend was reading in the library. So the place that I used to hang out a lot is in the back of the library where the windows are, and there's like that cushion. So there used to be a sign hanging up there. You can see there's two things on the ceiling where a sign used to hang called the Whisper Zone, which used to be there when I was there, and then we taped over the Whisper Zone, the Danger Zone. We were very cool. And that's where all my friends and I would hang out. And one time my friend was sitting there all alone, and I ran in, I had all this ice from somewhere, and I stuffed it down his shirt, and then I ran away. He loved that. And then another time, I live near the school, so I actually, during a spare, put my cat, at the time Shadow, in my backpack, and I brought him to school, and I put him in the library, and I was just holding him, and no one knows this. And some of my friends saw my cat in the library. Not giving you ideas. This is not inspiration. So that was the time my cat was in the library. But yeah, I've just had so many amazing times. I'm just making sure I'm not missing something crucial. Oh, and then, okay, one more memory. Mr. Gautier used to teach drama here, right before Mr. Collette, who I also had a wonderful experience with when I took drama in grade 12. But in grade 9, I was very passionate about directing. I wanted to be a director, so there used to be a group of assistant directors that would help out with the musical, and the musical that year was Guys and Dolls. And before the musical, we used to put on, the assistant directors at the McPherson Theater would put on like a making fun of the musical kind of skit for all the actors. And unfortunately, that was the one year one of my friends accidentally fell across the scrim, and the scrim ripped slightly before the performance, which we got in a lot of trouble about. But we recovered because the school was very patient with us unruly 14-year-olds. So yeah, I think, you know, you guys have a couple last months of grade 12 left. I would just advise enjoy it as much as you can. Spend time with each other. I know it's exam season, and there's always this weird mix of emotions kind of floating through the hallways when exams start, because half the people are not at school, half people are. They're studying, they're excited for it to be over, and I really noticed in the last couple weeks of school that there was this kind of sweet sadness in the air of people leaving, and it felt very special, but people were also really excited for the future and what was to come. And you won't be together like this anymore, which is just so sad to think about. So really treasure the moments, write things down that happen, take photos, take videos together. And when you go off to university, try and stay in touch. There's definitely people from my class that I wish I had wrote to a little more that I didn't. And yeah, just keep some close friends with you, because these people here have known you since however old or whenever you entered SMU, and that's a really special and beautiful experience to have. And I'm so excited, I feel like the school, when you come back here, it's so lovely because some things have stayed beautifully the same, like the back of the library. I can go there, it's the same cushion, I can sit there, feels very deja vu. But then lots of the school is changing in very beautiful parts. Like when I went back to the junior school, the computer lab, where we used to like compete and do like all the right type, this program, yes, you guys remember. Now it's the imagination lab. And I spent some time on Friday with the kids there, and they were just building whatever they wanted. I helped one kid like build a cup and flashlight, very simple thing. And they're just so excited to make and create things, and something that I wish the school had, and now I see them really putting into the curriculum, is being very hands-on, learning kind of to make things. Like in Brown Hall, which is not a Brown Hall anymore. We have like a workshop space, which is just amazing. I wish I had all of this when I was in high school. So I'm so excited to see how the school is staying up to date in that way. I feel like I've rambled on for a while, but I'm just getting so excited. But yeah, it's a beautiful experience. So enjoy the next few months, and really take some time to digest what you have learned from SMU, and take some time to spend time with the teachers and thank them, because the next time you'll see them will be like next year Alumni Weekend if you guys come by. So it is kind of hard to wrap your minds around, and I feel like sometimes I search for teachers that remind me of teachers that I had at SMU. Like this professor at UVic who teaches English reminds me of Mr. Young, so I took a couple classes from him. And you'll find yourself searching sometimes for stuff, but it's really exciting. University is great. Have fun. Don't do like the night of essays. I still do that, and I'm in 4th year, but try not to, because it's awful. Try to prepare yourself. And yeah, thank you guys so much. I think that's all I have to say, but I'm truly just so thankful for the wonderful coming of age experience SMU gave me, and the support all the teachers and the parents gave every time my dad drove me to like 6 a.m. orchestra. That used to be a thing. Or I'm not sure if it still is. I am so thankful. So yeah, that's all I have to say, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ann. So many creative ideas. Some of them forget right away. Cats in the library, love it. But thank you for joining us and sharing your experience here, and it's so great to see where you've taken it. So thank you. We are going to sing the school song. For some of you, the younger in here, it'll be familiar. For some who might be a little bit older, it might look different than what you remember. What we did in the last few years is we wanted to make sure that we represented well both St. Michael's School and University School. So you're going to find that the first verse is actually taken from the lyrics of the St. Michael's School song, and then we move on into Vivat Universitas. Don't worry, people who are in uniforms will help you out.
Who's the banana peel guy? Yeah, I know.
tradition to close with a short prayer. Please remain standing. Let us pray. Holy God, we gather as we have gathered before, finding our place under this familiar roof, surrounded by the names of generations of students. As we gather, we remember friends who are no longer with us, and we are mindful of those in our community who are going through difficult times. We hold them and their families in your light. Gracious God, we think of the students who are currently in the school from kindergarten onwards, all compiling their own stories to retell years down the road. We pray that they live their lives in a wholehearted and passionate manner, connected to their peers and to a sense of purpose. Beloved God, all this so that we can do our part in building a community that sees beyond itself and into a far wider world. For ourselves, for our school, and for our world we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Go in peace.
I didn't actually see you there. Just look at the back of your head.
Yes.
It's so good. I love it every year. You know, it's kind of, for me, it's an end year as well. Those are the kids that I've known since. It's the other notes. I bought it like 3 of Cunningham. It's me. And she doesn't know it. She said, don't do that. But you know what? I did it. So Elizabeth and I are there. That's the end of the tips for now. You know what? Dave? Yeah, so I'm going to go up to Brentwood and see their rowing regatta. Yeah, all right. Where Elizabeth's giving tours. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Look at that.
Alex's year isn't up yet. Yeah, I think it was 2019. Yeah, it must have been because no, it was before COVID. And so his first year. So 2020 was when they did. Yeah. So yeah. So he's 2019. He's not up there. It's not up there yet. He's 2019.
It's interesting that China is not here.
Well, they're probably COVID.
that's my guess. He was
Exactly.
at least a different color.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a different color. The
That's
barber
what the
was
colors
here.
That's why.